Could you get your hands up? Yo, Van City, stand up. Yeah, yeah. D-A-N-C-I-T-Y, stand up. Yeah, do it, get your hands in the sky. O-N-B-O-I-N-D, collective. It's the A-L-I-T-E, Van City. Oh boy, Van City. Oh boy, Van City. Oh boy.
What up, y'all? It's Alite, A-L-I-T-E, On Point Podcast.
Yeah, baby.
Who I got with me right here?
Yo, what up? It's your boy Queezi.
I hope you like that introduction that AC DJ put together for us. Looks fire right now.
Yeah. Thank you, homie.
So we've been doing a lot of talking about hip hop and the origins of hip hop, and you and me have had this conversation a lot over the years about, you know, being two brown dudes within black culture, embracing it, loving it, being a part of it, and how big of an impact that has had on our lives.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
All the time. The time, because we talk about it down to even just like the things around like using the N-word and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So like hip hop and black culture and Indian culture, they all kind of have a lot to do with each other.
Yeah, I remember being a kid, and you know we'd only be influenced by Bollywood movies in the house, Bollywood songs, Bollywood movies, and you'd look at the Bollywood heroes, and none of these guys ever had muscles, or none of them dressed cool, and none of them were cool.
No,
they didn't have any swagger or anything
like
unique.
Us.
Typical,
kinda
just
look like
regular
us.
dudes, right?
Just regular.
And then for me, I remember the first time seeing somebody on camera and being like, "Wow!" was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay.
In the Bruce Lee movie, Game of Death.
Okay.
I remember him coming on screen, and he had a big afro, and he's like 7 feet tall, big, muscular guy. And I remember my dad telling me, that guy's Muslim. Like, what? They make Muslims that look like him?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Oh, wow.
I just thought Islam was a brown person thing, right?
Yep.
So I remember seeing that for the first time thinking, wow, these people, this person is like nothing like a normal human. He's extraordinary as a human. And then I'd go back to watching Bollywood movies and be like, man, why are these guys so, I hate saying whack, but yeah, kind of like it just felt cheesy afterwards, you know? And
to what age though? What age did that start to happen for you though?
I don't think I really appreciated what Bollywood was as far as what they were doing until probably I was like 13, 14, till I like, okay, I can see what can make them cool. But at that time, I would probably say this is around the same time that my pops got an afro as well.
Okay.
And he really started getting into Richard Pryor was a huge one for him.
Okay.
He was obsessed with Richard Pryor.
Yep.
And then he found Stevie Wonder, and then Stevie Wonder vinyl would end up in the house. And then MJ came with Thriller. And then after Thriller hit, everything changed. Because I think a lot of Fijian Indian men wanted to be like MJ too.
Yeah, I think he was relatable.
Yeah.
Right? He was skinny. He was kind of awkward, right? He wasn't like the most handsomest guy, right? Like he was just an average looking guy, right? He had the curly hair. He didn't, you know, because when we really got introduced to him was after like the afros and the bell bottoms and that time in his life with the family and stuff, right? Where he really started to come out and put all these albums, like, because Thriller is like his third album, right? So he had just kind of done his own thing. And on his own, that's who he was, right?
That's when we got, that's when we got a piece.
But we got this version of this fair version of Michael. So that has a lot of stuff to do with it too, right? Because we knew that he came from this black culture, but he phased into this different version of himself, right?
Yeah.
So, which almost is like the way it should be, right? Is like you shouldn't be defined by this or that, right? We're all one. If you have your things that you do your things and stuff, right? So yeah, like hip hop, you know, like that whole culture and stuff. Because growing up, I had a different opportunity growing up. Like I got introduced to a lot of different cultures, different races in my family, different types of people. So I know you guys were talking on the '90s podcast about gays and stuff, right? Like I was introduced to homosexual people and stuff like at a very young age, right? Through my family and stuff, right? So I was introduced to this stuff, and maybe I didn't understand it, but it was kind of like, oh, okay, I seen it, so I was.
So you were much more open-minded to everything else.
Black people, like Filipino people, Asian, like so. I was around this growing up, so for me it wasn't anything, but it was more about you know, I think like I always saw black cultures like people or athletes like as superior. They are though, right?
In everything.
Just, you know, and it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, that part for me was what I wanted. Like I felt was missing from our
100%.
race, our culture, right?
100%.
Was that?
Yeah,
you know, that factor or whatever. Right?
Do you remember watching Bollywood movies when you were a kid?
Yeah, I watched lots. I knew songs. I would dance.
Right.
I would pretend I was different actors and stuff. Like I the big influence
For sure.
theatrically and musically.
Yeah.
On my life and just how I am today.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely watched listened to a lot of music. I don't anymore so much, you know, like
it's hard.
It's hard and it's just not where I'm at right now.
And
right?
it's a commitment. It's like 3 hours.
for a movie, yeah.
3 hours of
for
my
a
life.
movie and like 10 minutes for a song.
Yeah. So and then so the music hit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Black music, I remember hit my household, and it was so impactful on me. Because at that time, Bollywood music was kind of like the only music that I was exposed to. I didn't have any older cousins or older siblings that were that much older than me that were exposed to something different. So everybody around me was just kind of like in the same little bubble. And then once we started to get a piece of Thriller and some Stevie and some Lionel Richie, then you could see what music really could be about.
Yes.
And how dramatically different and how much more powerful music can really be.
Yeah.
And then there was a movie. I don't know if you remember this movie called The Last Dragon.
The Last Dragon.
And
Maybe, I think I do. Yeah.
The bad guy was a guy like, show enough.
Okay.
He had all his soldiers in front of him. And I remember the guy, I think it was Bruce Leroy was the character's name. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong. The main character's name is Bruce Leroy.
It was kids that were fighting?
Yeah. And this big like black samurai dude took over the neighborhood. And I remember seeing this guy on camera thinking, man, that's what a hero should look like. Because he was like young, brown, shiny, golden brown and stuff. And then that kind of like always made me want to kind of take on something that was bigger than myself. That was the first time I saw someone be like, obviously he's an actor, but he brought so much more to the camera. I was like, wow, we could really be special. Brown people could really be special.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. They could be. And there were so many movies that I saw and that I watched and that I wanted to emulate these people and stuff, right? Because I was like, yeah, this guy's doing this amazing stuff on screen and like, yeah. You know, my parents would take me to the Indian shows and stuff, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like we'd go and watch. So I was like totally into that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when I got introduced to this, different style of music and this different culture, it was something for me that was like different.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to. I wanted to be different. I didn't want to just fall into the norm. I wanted to be
sure.
one of these. I wanted to be, even though I was from the same culture, race, and stuff. Like I wanted to be different. I wanted to be individualized, right? It wasn't ever about like my skin tone or this and that, right? And I talk about this because it wasn't until like way later on, like maybe when I was about 27 years old, that I realized how impactful racism was in my life. Because I never really thought about it. I never looked at it that way
at the time,
right? So I never had this separation. What it was for me was about like I like the music of the hip hop music. That's what I liked. I liked the freedom and the creativity that it allowed for different people, because there's so many different people at that time. What we thought were so many different people rapping, right?
Yeah.
We're like, there's all these rappers out there and stuff, right? But like, and it was how they dressed and how they walked and how they talked and like all these things, right? And that's what I liked, right?
Yeah.
I had so many times in my life people would say to me, "Oh, you're trying to be black and stuff," right?
Right.
Heard
it many times.
I've done things like grown my hair out and got cornrows and stuff, right? Like, and it wasn't because
I do remember that.
But I also understand where cornrows come from, the history behind cornrow braiding, and what like. So I almost even ask permission. Is it okay if I get my hair done like this, right? And somebody said, yeah, it's just hair, right? So there, it's so become a part of my life that I had to really almost. I'm not. I'm like a guest. Right. I'm a guest.
Yeah.
In the culture, I'm a guest in the house. Right.
Yep.
I am a Fijian Indian, and that's that.
Yeah, 100%. I remember a breaking point for me was I went to one of these Indian shows as well with my parents. One only and never went again. And it was crazy because the person that came was a humongous superstar, like one of Bollywood's biggest stars at the time. It was Rishi Kapoor.
Oh, Rishi Kapoor, yeah.
Who's passed away. Rest in peace. But he come in as big fanfare. He never came before. And he got on stage. And, you know, these Bollywood actors, it's crazy. They do all these musicals, but none of them sing their own music.
No.
They're just lip syncing other people's songs. And I didn't know this. I thought that all the actors could sing.
No.
I just thought that was a skill of theirs.
It was other people.
Yeah. So I'm like 12 years old.
Talk about
I'm at the
ghostwriting.
show. Ghost everything. Yeah. You just show up, move your mouth. It's like
Bollywood set the trend for a lot of shit that's really going on out there right now.
Milli Vanillis.
Yeah.
They're all Milli Vanilli. So this guy comes out here, his big song, one of my favorite Bollywood songs actually, and he goes in to sing it, and I'm seeing him not moving his mouth. I'm thinking, what?
He's just
going on
dancing.
here? He's just dancing.
But he got moves though.
He can move.
Yep.
He can move, and he's kind of like, you know, he's kind of a bigger guy, but he's doing all these moves. I'm like, what? He's not singing? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then I came to realize, oh, there's songwriters that are writing these songs. These guys are just. And then I started to compare it to the other artists that I really liked at the time, which is like Michael Jackson and all these other guys. I'm like, what? But he's singing.
Yeah.
And then I divorced myself from Bollywood music.
Yeah,
Like this is garbage. I
Thought
can't.
it was a fraud after
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, when you watch WWE growing up and then UFC shows up and you're kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
that's fighting.
Yeah,
Okay, I can't watch this stuff anymore.
What's his face's wife? Nick Jonas. What's his wife's name?
Oh, Priyanka.
Yeah, she put out a track, I think, recently, right? So
I
she's
did
trying to
hear.
bust her chops
I
and
did
show us what
hear.
she got and stuff, right?
Yeah,
but
it's
that's
unfortunate.
you don't hear too many, Indian singers like hitting the mainstream or anything like that, right?
No, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, so I kind of just fell out of love with that whole thing because I don't know, it's interesting, right? It's not that I walked away from my culture or anything like that. I still got mad respect for both of my how my parents brought me up. My dad's Muslim and my mom's Hindu, so I had these two different religious kind of upbringings, right? And then trying to grow up in Canada, being this person, and then looking different than the majority and stuff, right? And then not really having anything to grasp on, because at that time nobody really knows Bollywood except for us.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's nothing for anyone to be like, oh, hey, you're cool, man. Can you be like, you're Indian or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But the closest thing was this culture, right? Of hip hop. Yeah. And who primarily made up that culture was the brown skinned people, right? Puerto Ricans and blacks. So so that was something I could identify with, was a common theme, right?
Yeah, and I'm starting to see it over the years. Brown kids, teenagers have adopted hip hop as their own.
Yeah.
They've kind of really, I don't think there's any other art form or music form out of everybody that I know that if you talk to some of these younger guys that are brown, they're almost all hip hop hits.
Do you think okay, so here's something that an interesting conversation that I have quite often with some other people. Is like, do you think there are limits to that though, right? Like, so us coming in, we've been rapping for like over 15 years.
Jeez,
okay?
yeah.
Over 15
Easy.
years been rapping in the scene, putting out records. You got albums, videos, you got your shows, you got people. I'm doing my thing. So we've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's limits out there to what somebody from our background, our culture should be doing? Like, should we fully assimilate to this culture, or should we still have some individuality? Because this is my issue nowadays, right? Is that there's no individuality in rap, right? Like, those days are gone. Just like nobody listens to an album anymore, right? So that art form is being lost now, right?
For sure.
So as somebody who is an Indian kid, got influenced by this culture, do we owe something to the culture?
Oh, for sure. In such a huge way.
Okay.
In such a huge way. Because not only does it affect us musically, but it affects us as people, right? Like, it changes who we are as people. I think we've talked to a few rappers on High Phrase, and almost all of them have said the same thing, that hip hop gives you kind of an armor, right? It kind of builds you in a different way. And if you are a guest in hip hop, and when I say a guest in hip hop, if you're not black in hip hop, you're a guest in hip hop. And if you're coming from any other culture and you start using the N-word because you're an artist or a hip hop artist, or you think you're an MC, to me that's whack. To me that's trash. To me, nobody should be able to use a word except for black individuals that choose to own that word, because it shouldn't be in anybody's vernacular.
And we talked about that when I came on the High Phrase, right? Like, we talked about that whole thing. And like, I see rappers like, so I'm listening to music, Spotify. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, if I want to be this person, this ambassador of hip hop for Vancouver, right? I gotta listen to everybody. So I've everybody that I've worked with, plus I've listened to their music. on the regular, I'm listening to the music.
Dude, you are brave.
And so because well, this is the thing, right? Like, so I need to see.
You're
So,
you're a true purveyor of hip hop.
so when I listen and I hear these things, I'm like, oh man, you got lost, right? Like you got lost in something else, right?
Yeah.
You don't even know anything. So it's my responsibility to these younger generations to say, hey man, like, you get a little off track, right? So you got to get back on track, because now you're taking this lane. This is somebody else's lane, man.
Yeah.
Don't be skating in that lane, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
stay in yours, right? Like, here you go. I have never dropped N-word on any of my records.
Same.
I don't use it around me with people around me. I still remember the day very clearly. I think me, you, and Daga, he said we don't use this word in our rhyme,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
and we became about this because it was about preserving something, right?
Yeah,
And creating something, right? So and I want to get into that. Like, what are the people's responsibilities to hip hop, right?
Yeah.
If you are a guest, if you're this person and that person, because as much as it taught me this and it made me this person I am today, it also taught me to respect where I came from, like, too, right? Because the one thing about the black culture is they are very proud about their roots and about where they came from. And if you're like a person, Fijian, Indian person, like, you should know a lot about your history,
For sure,
right?
for
so
sure.
so this kind of leads me to believe that if this is where people are nowadays, like certain artists out there that are from our community and stuff, right, that are like perpetrating or portraying themselves like somebody else, like, hey man, don't forget where you came from, man, because I don't see any of that kind of shit or reference in your music, or hear it in your music and your videos,
In
or
your
anything.
real life, yeah.
So where is that?
Yeah.
So I don't identify with those people because they're not true, I think hip hop aficionados, right?
Yeah, it's really frustrating because it's as if people kind of wear it like they kind of wear it like an outfit, right? When it comes to hip hop and what they want to portray, they put it on, and when they're done with it, they take it off and they put it away. And I don't think that the audience of those people understand the importance of the culture. And I think that's a big part of what's missing. And there's a certain audience that does. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a certain audience that appreciates the culture, which is why guys like, Joey Badass, J. Cole, Kendrick, why these guys can have careers, because they're political artists, they're socially conscious artists, and they sell big numbers. So the audience is there. But there's this big, huge subculture of what it seems like just acting a part in the culture.
Well, and then I think this is but today's mediums now, I guess, for delivering music and whatnot, like that allows for that today, right? Because of the ability to monetize stuff, right? So that's the driving force behind a lot of people's careers, I believe, right now, right?
Yeah.
That's a big motivating factor. And you know what? Hey, man, that's cool. Do that, but at the same time, don't forget about this, because at the end of the day, who's gonna remember what, right? Are they gonna remember the glitz and the glam, or are they gonna remember what you said, right?
Yeah.
And I think people are really gonna remember what people said. They're not gonna remember people for their shine, right?
Yeah, for real.
So, like a lot of the culture, a lot of the history, it's being lost, just like we've seen in other areas of life, right?
Yeah. And so I think with this, what we can do is we can kind of reestablish what people should be thinking about, what they should be looking at when they're supporting artists, when they're supporting a movement, and what should be considered to be what leads hip hop. Everybody has space in the culture. You want to get money, get your money. It's all good. But the people that lead the culture, the voices that lead the culture, should be the ones that are propping up the culture.
Who cares about money? Here's the thing, like who cares about the money, right? Money's out there to be made. Like I have to work a job to make majority of my money, right?
Facts.
But the goal is always to have what our passion is to kind of prevail and take care of us, right?
Yes.
That, our gifts and our abilities, right? Not the robot shit that we do, right?
100%.
So, so that for me, that's my reality, right? And for other people, hey, whatever way you gotta do it to get your hustle on, like do it legit. Because it will mean a lot more, and it will be longer lasting, it'll be everlasting, right? That way. And so this kind of leads me to like talk about what's missing, right? What I feel like is missing, and I feel like because of the way that it's become like so you can turn it into money, right?
Yeah.
It's that people want to just pump out stuff and say whatever's current or hot at the moment to continue that whatever it is, right? That movement forward for them, right? So they're almost just kind of perpetuating these false narratives. You know,
and it's the easy way out. I understand. It's the easy way, and everybody wants the easy way out. Whatever the path of least resistance is. If I gotta put out garbage and say garbage, I'll just do it. You know, at some point, we have to figure out a way to show the value of what the culture is and have people identify with the value of it. I think if people start to see the value of the culture, then they'll start to understand why, you know, the things that people say are so important. And then the vultures start to kind of fall to the wayside, right?
Why do you think Nas won a Grammy this year?
Oh, man, I really hate to say it. It's
Out
really
of all of these years, he's been out for over 20 years. Okay,
Yeah,
he had a
yeah.
fucking Five Mics album. It's gonna be coming
His
out
very
later.
first album.
We're gonna talk about it later.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, a lot of his other albums after that were pretty close to Five Mics.
Hell yeah.
You know, prolific rapper, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, amazing,
Yeah.
legendary status, no beefs ever really. I think the whole
Outside of
Jay-Z beef was just bullshit, right?
It's a manufactured.
They're different rappers. They're in totally two different leagues, man.
And they got paid together.
Yeah, so they both got paid off of it, right? So but like, you know, so here, right? This is what I want to know. Like this is missing. So this is missing. There's nobody out there right now that represents any of those things. You know, like a
Yeah, that's
true
tough.
artist. Because
Yeah.
nobody's listening to albums anymore, right? Nobody's gonna listen past the second track. Nobody's gonna listen past the first track.
I think this Nas Grammy is the token, because essentially at this point award shows are kind of dead, right? Grammys are kind of trash. The Oscars are kind of trash. No one's really watching. You can't have people in the audience. There's no glitz and glamour anymore if there's not a room full of celebrities.
Yeah.
So I think all these awards now are just kind of falling by the wayside. So this is kind of the Grammys' way of saying, yeah, well, we did give him something.
Well, you know, and here you go, right? So like this now, when I heard about it, I saw Nas's reaction. That's how I first saw it. I was like, oh, his post, and he's like, yeah, you know, we're excited, right? Of
course.
And but for me, I wasn't excited for him anymore.
Yeah.
Like for me, I wasn't.
Definitely not.
I still listen to, like, go on my playlist. I got his tracks on there. I got
Yeah.
his Illmatic album. You know, I could quote lines off there. You know, what all day, right?
Yep.
But like, I just wasn't excited because we waited for so long, man.
It's not right.
And,
It's not
and it
right.
just didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so for like even the music industry to, like, you know, show us their true colors now, right? Like what is it gonna take?
Yeah,
for
I mean,
somebody to realize this.
Institutionally, we know they've been broken for a long time. I mean, how many different hip hop artists have boycotted the Grammys over the years, right? Hip hop knows the Grammys are bullshit. And, you know, as much barbershop talk goes down as who's the greatest of all time, you can never really say there's the greatest of all time because there's so many eras to talk about. I could never say that Rakim is not as great as the Jay-Z. I can never say that Jay-Z is not as great as the Pac. No. The era, they define eras for a reason, right? And I think that's part of the talk we got to get off of. There's no real GOAT.
No.
That's not a part of anyone's logical conversation.
I don't understand that, right? Like, you know, I hate that word when I hear greatest of all time. I first started hearing about it in basketball, I guess. When I first started hearing that kind of terminology coming up and stuff, and I just don't like it, man. What's a GOAT? A GOAT?
Yeah, it's impossible. It's impossible
How
because
you gonna make an acronym out of a weak,
out of the weakest
animal. I don't understand, right? So it's almost like oxymoron, right?
We got to redefine.
Like open your eyes, people. Look at what you're calling yourselves, right?
Yeah, we got to redefine
calling
this.
Yourself a goat, but really you're just a sheep in disguise, man. Oh shit.
Bars.
So.
But yeah, I mean, institutionally, I think these Grammys, all these other things are whack. And I know at one point we had things like Source Magazine, we had Double XL. We had these kind of guidelines to tell us, oh, you got 5 mics, oh, you got a Double XL. There was some kind of credibility you could give to this rating system.
There's no system now.
Magazines are gone.
Nope, magazines are gone.
No one really
Paper's
pays
gone.
attention to
Paper's
source
dead,
websites. Man. You know, they're kind of dead.
Yep.
And I think we have to be the ones that redefine where the value is.
So like some Shishko and Ebert shit or some
yeah,
you know, like
no thumbs up and thumbs down.
Aficionados.
We're
the Canadian rap hip hop aficionados.
Yeah, man. You know? And when we say this,
don't drink beer,
dude. Y'all gotta understand this is very different because our history goes back not just to being in the music part of it.
No.
Hip Hop Connection,
digging in the crates,
dude. Hip Hop Connection was the cornerstone for clothing in the city.
Like. Yes.
If you needed hip hop clothing, There's only one place you could go to, or two places. East side Urban Wear.
You were telling me the other day about RC the Hazard, right?
Yeah.
Like you probably remember RC the Hazard coming through Hip Hop Connection. I don't know how many kids would come through.
Yeah.
And we'd start spitting, and they'd just start wanting to like everybody, man.
Everybody.
You know, we must have inspired
Everybody.
a lot of people out of
Well,
that place,
I think the
man.
dope thing was because we would do those hats, we do those T-shirts, and we could kind of like, we could really be ourselves because that environment was meant for you to be yourself.
Well, here's the other thing: Hip Hop Connection. Okay.
Yeah.
Connection. We couldn't be mean to anybody.
Facts.
You dudes would be coming in and buying these fake fucking chains and shit. Okay, I'm just saying.
Hey,
we're not hating,
I had one.
right?
I had one.
I had one too.
Yep.
Right, fake chain, whatever. The flossy gear, the tracksuits, this, that stuff.
Yeah.
Like would come in and be like, I don't know, that's kind of suspect shit, right? But dudes would come in and buy it. And you want to know what? We had to be nice to each and every one person because they were coming in. They were supporting us.
Yeah.
And little did we know that later on in life, like that job at that, at first for you was at the kiosk, and then when I joined you, in the tunnel, the vortex, hip hop vortex, people would come in, they get stuck inside there.
Yeah.
And shit.
Well, they had, because I think they had reverence for us, right?
Yeah.
People would come in and ask us about albums. They'd ask us about artists. They'd ask us about clothing. And it kind of gave us our early foundation.
And we all had different, like, because you listen to different music, I listen to different music, and everybody would be playing their own music, right? Like, in the back, right?
It's crazy because I was bumping like Master P, like the down south stuff. You'd be coming in with some Tribe Called Quest and stuff, and then Dagga would have his own East Coast flavor. And none of us really had the same taste in music.
No.
Interestingly, none of us did.
No, none of us did.
But in that spot, in that time, dude, I remember weekends.
We had a connection.
And I remember the weekends, man.
Connection.
Hell yeah. And people would like line up out the door while there'd be freestyles happening in the store while we're selling merchandise. And it was popping off. And I don't think that was in Metrotown.
The sickest shit.
And I don't think people understand the importance of that because it gave people like a hip hop identity in the city. And it was like in the mainstream mall, right?
Be a part of that, man.
It was a wild experience.
Dude.
And that's where our origins are when it comes to hip hop in this city. And not just that, people got to understand when we started making music collectively, we were doing protest shows. We were at marches. We were at rallies. We were in the streets doing shows for causes that mattered. What hip hop was made for originally.
Hats off day, parade,
right?
no car day, whatever, man.
Yeah, man. Under the volcano, all these protest movements.
Roots and Rhymes. Remember
originally.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy how you said that because we're having Charlene on High Phrase this Tuesday.
Oh shit! Okay.
That's crazy how that comes around. So we are
Roots, Rhymes, and Resistance, man.
Yeah, that's what it was,
bro.
Yeah,
man.
And our origins in hip hop are that political foundation. So we came in the gates with that.
We've seen a lot of rap crews, man.
Lots.
And we looked up to a lot of rap
Lots.
crews, man. There was so many people that never went anywhere, and some people that did go somewhere, and we're just like, man. Where did they go now, right?
Yeah.
I see some guys around and stuff, man. Maybe we should get them on the show one day.
It's mandatory.
Yes.
It's mandatory.
Okay, man. We'll reach out there. Like, who do I see, man? I see, like, Concise around.
Oof.
I used to see Checkmate around town.
Architects.
Architects. I know there's all this drama and beef with Mad Child, but hey, man, I used to listen to Mad Child's rhymes and shit, man.
We opened for him a couple times,
right?
too.
Yeah, we opened for him. Like, there's people that we looked up to, like, Vic Vodka.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Cannibalist.
Shout out.
Oh, dude, like
a lot of these
so
dudes.
many rappers out there.
Local.
So many rappers, man. That we need to get them on this on the On Point
not
podcast,
only do we
man.
need to get them on here, but we need to really reinforce and understand so people can understand the relevance and the value of having those guys come out when they did.
Yeah.
And kind of do things that nobody else was able to do, like being able to perform at clubs, headlining at clubs. That was a big deal at the time because there were no other shows.
Yeah, there was.
You couldn't perform anywhere else.
Incredible Ease. There's so like, oh man, I remember I used to be in elementary school. I'd run back home from like playing like hockey or whatever, right? Like with our friends, like no pads or no hockey, right? Just straight up like
straight up bruises everywhere.
Run home and I would go listen to like I think it was a 101.9. It was up at UBC. It was called the Crispy Biscuit. I don't know who they have on like Flip Out, J Swing, like all these old school DJs from Van City, flipping and playing some of the fucking dopest hip hop I ever heard, man.
Yeah.
I want to like if I see this, I want to ask them, hey, do you remember this track that you played? Like, where is this track, right? Like it was like my religion, man.
Yeah.
And I looked up to these guys, man, and I want to know where they're at now, man. I want to know because I want to know you know, like I've heard some stories, some from different artists about what their experience is, but I want to know where these guys came from, right? Because I think that's the legacy as an artist out of Vancouver, out of this city, out of this province, right? Out of Canada. You need to know and you need to pay homage and respect to those artists.
Because they had to do so much more with so much less.
Oh, imagine this. When we would get an album or hear something, we didn't have, they didn't have a music video for it right away.
No.
Like this here down the same day, you could cut a track, cut a video, few hours, boom, it's all out. You could be the hottest thing in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? Back 20 years ago, we'd fucking like wait for that album to come out because we read about it in the magazine. Okay? Oh, this album's coming out. Okay.
2 months from the time it releases.
Oh, unfortunately, we're not getting that album. That's international import, and we don't bring those in, unfortunately.
Right.
So then we'd have to go find out where we get it from or get a dub version or some shit and then listen it. We would listen track for track for track.
Yeah.
And then we would wait for the next album to come out. And we'd just listen to that
couple of years
album,
later.
track for track, and wait for it. And then we would be like, oh my God, right?
But then, you know, you learn to appreciate what you got from the artist. Because you valued the lyrics, you valued the importance of their thinking when they made the album.
Oh yeah.
You value that. Okay, he gave me this. Now I'm gonna have to wait another year before I get another one.
Yep.
It was like an introduction into their life in a way where you could actually absorb it. Now you can't absorb.
Well, if you listen to these, like, so if you listen to the legends, like, so if you listen to like Nas and Jay-Z and Tupac and like whoever else you think is a big rapper out there, was a progression, right? So this is now where. You know, they've gone on to something else, and they're not putting out music anymore and stuff, right? So, which is unfortunate, right? Because for me, I don't know, I don't see myself not ever making a track or recording something
like Ice Cube.
You know, I feel like that is what I need to do, right? Is to continue to put out music and stuff, right? And it's
part of your outlet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So. You know, those guys aren't doing that anymore, right? You know, is there responsibility to these younger generations of hip hop to carry on that part of the tradition and that part of the music culture?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that the North American audience doesn't give these veterans a reason to make music. You know, they don't support. They don't remember the lyrics. If they do shows, like, you know, I've been to a couple of legend shows and they do their new music and no one knows the words.
Yep.
And they do their old music and everyone's like, I look crazy. Even Snoop Dogg show, I went a couple years ago to Snoop Dogg show, Afro Man opened for him, and Snoop was doing some of his newer material and nobody knew the words. Yeah. But then he'd do G Thang and, you know, what's my name, and everyone's all going crazy.
Do you think they get tired of doing that shit?
Hell yeah.
Would you get tired of doing that same shit
I think if I had the option to get paid to do music, I think I would love doing every track all the time.
Yeah. I would love to.
But their legacy is different, right?
Exactly.
Their legacy is different.
We don't know. We don't know yet.
That's what it is.
And I think everybody's striving to get there, right?
Yeah,
to that place where they can say, oh, okay, hey, you know, look, I did this. I got this out there. And it's something that people prize and they hold it, you know, dear to them. It's changed their life. It's done all these things. I don't think you can do that with just one song.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And I think that's frustrating for artists when they get to a certain level. You know, I'm sure Ice Cube wants to do all of his new music, but if the fans don't know any of it, it's defeating. You're like, fuck it. Why am I doing this shit?
Exactly.
So I think a lot of these older artists, like, they have avenues. I mean, Cube could do movies and make way more money than he can doing music.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Snoop Dogg does everything. He does anything he wants except for music.
Except for music.
Right?
He's done with it, I think.
I think so.
He's got a couple tracks here and there I hear him with. There's a track recently I just heard him on with somebody else, someone newer rapper and some other guy. But and the guy has like some kind of crazy like Muslim name too. It's funny.
Oh.
So, so I see him doing stuff here and there. Hey. I got some favorite albums that I think I want to talk about, man.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, should we pull out our list now?
Oh, yes, for sure. Man. But specific list, because we're talking about debut albums. Best hip-hop solo debuts.
Yeah. So what do we got here, man?
But what was your first solo album you put out?
What was my individual?
Like your own personal solo.
Oh, the first album that I put out was it was in like 2015. It was called Never Looking Back.
Yes.
Yeah, and it had 10 tracks on. It's about like 30 minutes long. all the beats. I'm pretty sure all the tracks are done by Religion. So Religion's this producer
Shout
that
out
we met
Religion.
way back in the day, like through a Georgia Strait ad, and
Hayden Baptiste.
yeah, and turns out to become like a lifelong friend, and he's doing big things. Shout out
Super
to
talent. Super talent.
I think he wants to just go by Baptiste now, right?
Baptiste.
It's actually really cool.
Pretty
man.
dope name.
You know, Religion's good. Baptiste, hey man, even better.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
but yeah, so he did the beats, and I went to Stroker DeLuca.
Shout out Strozy.
Yeah, to do the mixing and the engineering, and yeah, you know,
Do you have
turned
a
out
Do you have a favorite track off the album?
off that album, you know, I just got asked that question recently, like, what's your
crazy.
favorite track? And I go, you know, like every track is so different. I guess on that album, my most favorite track would be, let's see, what's on there? Saying It. I'd probably say Saying It because it's like the first track on the album. And it was really cool because I did it to the beat, the original beat that I got from Religion. When I went back and I spit the bars for him and stuff, he's like, "Hey man, let's change this. Let's fuck with this a little bit, right?" He's like, "This sounds old. Let's fresh it up a little bit, right?" So he took that beat, rearranged some of the stems, maybe added one or two things, and turned it into a completely different song.
That's
brought
dope.
a different vibe to it, and so that's usually
so
a
dope.
song that I do when I'm performing live. So I'd have
That's
to say
wow.
Saying It. Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. So Never Looking Back. Yeah, that was my first project, man.
Man, seems like a long time ago, 2015.
Hell yeah, man. 6 years ago.
6 years ago is crazy.
A lot has happened in 6 years, man. A lot of shows, you know, a lot of stuff like just around the world's been happening, right? And in this last year, it feels like, you know,
it's been like 5 years in one.
it feels like it's been like 5 years in one, right? It seems like the last time I did a show or anything was like just like a distant thought now, you know? So
in the past. So, you know, there's a lot of great artists out there whose debut albums weren't great albums. They were just kind of
some of them were flops.
okay albums.
Yeah, some were flops for
but
sure.
these albums from these artists were spectacular out the gate.
Hell yeah.
Who you got? What's your three?
What were my three here? I put Nas, Illmatic, and you guys talked about that, you know, earlier. And track for track, another album, only 10 songs on there. And great album.
Great.
Intros, great production. There's a documentary on the album, like, you
There's
know,
a Universal
Times is
class as well.
Illmatic, you know, exactly. So it's definitely a legendary piece, artifact for hip hop, man. So
It really is.
And to come out the gates like that,
Oof.
so hot. And I feel like he continued on that. But because of the introduction of like stunting and trapping and this different type of side to the culture, or what it evolved into, kind of like his type of style of rap, the storytelling, the history lessons, right? Like that's. Nobody got time for that shit no more.
And he kind of fell into that trap too. I remember at one point he kind of got bit by that Diddy bug.
Oh yeah.
And he had the song with Genuine, like "Shorty,
Yeah.
say what you like,"
Yeah,
rocking the ice and stuff. And
I think
kind of
that's when a lot of shit went sideways for him.
Yes,
That's when the
it
Khalees
really
shit
did.
happened and
Yeah.
all this stuff, right? So you can
bad.
see, like now, right? Like as these guys older and the stories come out about,
Right.
as much as there
Where
is
they
about
were.
like stories about Hollywood, behind the scenes, underground shit, like in the hip hop scene, there's a lot of fucking suspect shit going on.
a lot
man.
of movies.
You know,
a lot of movies that need to be made.
And I got respect for Nas because I feel like he's one of these artists that stayed true. And, you know, he didn't delve into the, these other realms of the culture.
For sure.
Of hip hop, the business side of it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yo,
you
he's
know,
still dropping great work today, man.
his stuff, like,
amazing.
literary timepieces, man.
The
Like,
album with
musical
Kanye was dope.
timepieces, man.
Yeah,
Like,
Nas is dope.
timeless. Like, I could put on his record and like, right?
Just be gone.
That's my thing whenever I'm on the show. When I don't have anything to say, but like I really like something. Yeah. So Nas Illmatic was definitely
Big.
a tight album, man. How about you? What was your first one, man?
Probably the most influential album to my thinking of hip hop is Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style.
Yeah.
I think that is a masterpiece from the first bar that he spits to the last track. It is spectacular in so many ways. Not only did he come out with and here's the thing, Snoop Dogg's rap style, his flow hasn't really changed over the years.
Yeah.
20 plus years in the game, he hasn't really changed his flow. But the things that he did with his ability and his voice and Dr. Dre's ear, it was just one of the most complete pieces of work
Yeah.
ever made.
Yeah.
Even the What's My Name, which is like the commercial song out of the album, is still a banger. You can still listen to it all the time.
All the time, man.
And even like the lesser known tracks, like to me, his flip of Lottie Dottie is one of the best
so
hip hop
good.
covers
Yep.
ever.
Yep.
And
No one, I don't think anyone's ever touched that track other than him.
yeah, I mean, hip hop's not really a cover sport, you know?
No.
Artists don't really do covers of
No,
other artists'
they don't.
tracks.
Yeah, that's
but
act-
Snoop flipped that so beautifully.
I mean, yeah, you're saying. So, getting back to that.
But yeah, no, Snoop, and like, you know, he had songs like Doggy Dog World.
Mm-hmm.
The melodies were so beautiful, and it felt like something I'd never
So
felt
different,
from hip hop
so
before.
good music,
And the
musically, melodically,
skits.
like the skits
DJ
are-
E, Z the Jack Off. I like, come on, Snoop Dogg's skits, some of the greatest things you're ever gonna experience on a hip hop album.
7-Up, I never have, I never will.
And it got the laughter
You know,
too in the background.
right? So good, so good.
So yeah, that's definitely my number one.
Well, so I know that Tupac had an album, Strictly.
Yep.
You know, that's his first album, right?
Yep.
So I like his second album is Me Against the World.
Tupacalypse Now,
Tupacalypse Now. So
Yeah.
I like his third album.
Me Against the World.
Yeah, so I have to talk
Same.
about this album because it's an album that doesn't really get talked about. He doesn't get recognized for those other two albums.
Yeah.
I don't think there was things on there that were like put him into that place where he became that person. I think this was the album that
Yes.
defined him. So this was his true coming out
Yes.
of, out of that where he identified as this more rugged kind of gentlemanly
Yeah.
kind of rapper, right?
Intellectual, man. Yeah, for
you
sure.
know? And
Yeah.
that was the persona that he was trying to go for. But then when All Eyes on Me came out, I think that he lost that, right? And he still tried to hold
got
on to
dark.
that.
He got
right?
dark.
He did.
Yeah.
And I mean that album, it's right there behind us.
Yeah.
It's a dark album too, but it was
Yeah.
also uplifting as well.
Yeah, because Keep Your Head Up, Dear Mama. You had all these beautiful, beautiful songs, and that's what they are. They're actually beautiful songs. But from the moment All Eyes on Me starts,
Yep.
you could just feel a different kind of heat.
Yep.
He was mad and he was confrontational. Every beat was sinister and
And what
Crazy.
happened between that time?
prison.
For him, right? Well, exactly, right? Prison, money, fame,
Suge
fortune,
Knight.
right?
Yeah.
Like, all of these things came into place and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately his music went that way
Yeah.
and awesome stories though still like
Yeah.
and if you dig up his shit, he's got tons and tons and tons of music out there, a lot of records.
Unreal.
Stuff that was unreleased before All Eyes on Me came out.
Yeah, yeah.
And that stuff, honestly, that stuff should have become, the
What he
mainstream
is.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should have become who he is. So
And it's
that
crazy
album-
because there's a story out of Master P saying he wanted to get Pac
okay.
on No Limit.
Yes.
Before Pac had his legal troubles.
Yeah, and he went and talked to him in the jail.
Yeah,
right?
and if that would have happened,
Yep.
man, that would have been
Who
the real
knows,
game
right?
changer.
Because I talked to Snoop. I heard Snoop talking about his experience going and working with Master P. He's got mad respect for P and
For
stuff,
sure,
right?
for
But
sure.
like he talked about what that whole thing was about too,
Yeah.
because P came to him at that time too, right?
Yeah.
And said, hey,
Let's
here,
build.
this is what I'm gonna offer you, right? And so he took it. It didn't really last too long. Well, how many did like
3
three
albums.
albums, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that was it. And then he kind of faded off after that. I
It was
think.
crazy because Snoop did a Source magazine interview around this time when he was trying to leave Death Row and Suge was holding him ransom, and he was with the Source interviewer and they were going to like a store or something, and Snoop didn't have money to get his kid diapers.
Shit.
That's how destitute it was at the time, and the interviewer had to buy it for Snoop.
Wow, man. And that's
So,
all Suge, man.
This is all
That's all Death Row.
literally right before Master P came in,
Yeah.
right? And kind of flipped things up for him. But Pac's one of those what ifs because he did so much while he was alive. Everyone was like, oh, what if? Fuck, what if he had another couple years?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So I know you got one on your list, and I think it's actually good.
Oh yeah.
Oh, great album. Yeah. 36 Chambers.
Really introduced West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no chance but to listen
Yeah.
at that point.
Big.
I think I'm gonna have to say influential albums. Number 2, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah.
Get Rich or Die Trying, 50 Cent
Mhm.
really kicked the door open to kind of make old school kind of.
Cool.
Dre had a piece, but yeah, it was like because the kids were kind of listening to crappy rap.
He made it cool.
He
made it cool to be a gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 1 has to be Straight Outta Compton.
Nice.
I don't know
Nice.
an album that fucking
flip the script like that. Yeah.
Hip hop on its ass more.
So if you can't hear what Mike said, enter the Wu-Tang, 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying, NWA Straight Outta Compton.
yeah.
And the only reason that's not in the list is because we were just doing solo artists.
Yep.
That's it. I'm sure we'll get to groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tupac, we
yeah.
were on Tupac,
Yeah.
and so the next artist, she was associated with the group. Like I think she's on your list, and they had some rivalry
Little
with
bit.
Tupac, right?
Little bit.
So
Yeah.
who is that?
Lil' Kim, Queen Bee with Hardcore.
You think that was a hot album?
I think for a female artist at the time,
okay, that was a good album. That was a good album.
what she did on that album has never been done by a female artist
But didn't
before.
Foxy come out before her?
Il Nana?
Yeah.
And I sat on these for a while.
Okay.
I sat on this for a while and I said, okay, what do I remember about this time in hip hop? What do I remember about what these two artists were doing? And Foxy was dope. I heard Foxy's baritone voice, hard spitting raps.
Yeah.
But the things that Lil' Kim was talking about and saying on this album, no female touched at the time.
That's true.
All the female
She was
artists.
hardcore.
All the female artists up until this time in hip hop
Yeah.
weren't really feminine. And I hate saying this, but they weren't really feminine. I mean, MC Light was fly as fuck.
Yep.
Salt and Pepper was fly as hell.
Yep.
But they all wore pants.
Yep.
They all wore pants and jackets. None of them did skirts and like, none of them were girly girls. Lil' Kim came with these, basically wore nothing all the time.
Yeah.
And not only did she look apart, but she could spit.
She could.
And she had
I've seen freestyles of her.
Dude.
Spit, yeah.
And
she could spit.
And she brought this kind of fearless sexuality into hip hop for female artists that changed everything.
True. Nicki Minaj, man.
Everything. She introduced
Nicki Minaj, man.
Dude, Nicki Minaj. Who
This is just carbon copy of Little Kim,
every
man.
female after Lil' Kim
Yeah.
wanted to be like Lil'
Yeah.
Kim.
This is true.
So Lil' Kim,
Yeah.
hardcore, I think the impact that album had can't be denied, man.
Okay, I never really even thought about that, man.
She put a gigantic foot into hip hop at the time.
Little Kim, shout
Big
out.
one, Lil' Kim.
Shout out. So what else?
What's your second choice?
My second choice would be, I chose Common's B album.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think we moved away kind of from like soul albums to like, because
great
that
albums.
album really, I think, was his defining moment in hip hop.
Yeah.
He was able to like bring together these two kind of like different aspects of the culture, right? The musical and then lyrical, but connect with the people.
Dude,
and like
Kanye,
on,
man.
on a mass, right?
Yeah.
And and Kanye, he's the predecessor to Kanye, right? Like,
for sure.
he laid the groundwork for
He birthed
for
Kanye
right?
style, yes.
Chicago,
Yes.
right? Chi-Town. So, that album, so hot. But then I think that album also opened opportunities for him to really open up his career and do other things. So,
for sure. I think he kind of became like the handsome intellectual in hip hop.
I feel like he was kind of like who, like maybe Leonardo DiCaprio would be to acting. This is what Common is to hip hop, almost.
Right. I see it.
Right?
I see it. Yeah.
He's like that Dos Equis guy, Just very, yes.
So another one of my album choices, which Mike already mentioned,
Yeah.
50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying.
Yeah. That's a great solo
Holy
debut
shit.
album. Yeah.
Jesus. And I mean, he had How to Rob before.
Yeah.
And I know he was working on music with Jam Master Jay and he had some songs, but as a whole album, what Dr. Dre, Dr. Dre, man.
Sick.
Dr. Dre
so
back
much
on
shit
it.
was popping out of there, man.
Yeah.
Like that whole West Coast, The Game, and all these guys are coming out at that time.
Yeah.
Young Buck, man, fucking, all that stuff. Yeah.
But back to back, that album, man,
Yeah.
the feeling that
So
it
good.
captured
That
was
was another.
amazing.
I think there was only like 10 tracks on that album again too, or
Oh,
maybe there
yeah,
was 12. I'm
maybe
not too
something
sure.
like
We'd
that.
have to, But yeah, that album was bumping in the club
Huge.
all the time on the weekend.
Dude,
like, there was
Many
tracks
Men,
off that
I
album.
listened to Many Men over and over and over again. It was so sinister.
Yep.
And then he had, the song with Nate Dogg.
Yep.
Oh my God, 21 Questions.
So good.
Album was built to stand the test of time.
Yep.
But
Do you bump it still?
some songs get some play. Hated to Love It.
Yeah.
But that's not off that album. No, that
Hater
came
or
afterwards.
11? No, that's off the
that came
later
afterwards.
album.
I don't really listen to anything from that album. I can't say I do, man.
You
It's
should,
crazy.
Do you have like Spotify or
Yeah,
iTunes? You
yeah,
should
for
just
sure.
go dig up a 90s playlist, throw it on, and just, remind
back in
yourself.
time.
You know what? I do it, and it's interesting. I heard a radio interview about this radio artist talking about his 16-year-old daughter. She was taking like teenage daughter, not 16-year-old daughter. She was taking a shower. The kids, like they put their other kids to bed, and so he had to go up and say, "Hey, do you want to maybe keep it down? The kids are in bed." And so she's listening to like some early 2000 crunk rap, like Little John shit, right? Yeah. And he was saying, and before this we were talking, and she was listening to some 50 Cent and some old school 50 Cent. So when she went and found these videos and stuff, she's like, "Oh wow, like look at him, he's so young and stuff," right? And like, but and I think that's important, right? Because now him and his daughter, they have a connection, right?
Yeah.
Because he's like, I was listening to this stuff like on Fridays and Saturdays in the clubs. I would go there just to hear these songs get played, right? So these are important pieces of my life, right? And for his kid to be listening and interested in that, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. And that's happened a couple of times in my household as well with my son and daughter. They kind of get connected to artists. Like I remember we were Snoop's on that cooking show with Martha Stewart.
Oh yeah.
And my kids see that Snoop. That's the Snoop that they know, and they know a really friendly, happy, weed smoking Snoop, which is kind of who he is. But that's not who he was.
Well, the East Coast ain't got love for Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, man. That's the Snoop we know, man.
Right? So I remember I introduced Murder Was the Case to them. They're like, what?
Yeah.
That's a Snoop Dogg song? I'm like,
Murder
what?
was a case that they gave.
Snoop Dogg was a gangster rapper. Straight gangster rapper.
Calvin Brodus.
And he sounded like a serial killer on beats. He just had that voice. It was so gangster, man.
Sick. One of the best voices.
And it's crazy because we talked about all this hip hop, and I think one common denominator is that all of these are albums.
Yes.
Front to back album experiences.
You listen to every track on those albums. Yeah.
And you make it a point.
Yeah.
And artists made it a point to give you an album to listen to.
Listen to back to front.
Yeah.
They put stuff in the cover. Now you don't have any of that stuff anymore now, right?
Subliminal.
Now see, the thing is, now you get exposed to people's real lives and stuff, right? And so like a lot of the culture is stuck in this one place, right? And they're not showing the progression after. You got to go dig it up and see like artists got their own wineries, they're investing in companies and startups and doing stuff and like a lot of these hip hop artists that are legends now have invested in a lot of things that we're using right now.
Smartly.
So I want to know about those guys, man.
Yeah, it's important. Yeah. And I remember like, I don't know if you were a big fan, because when I was younger in hip hop, I didn't really listen to a lot of the lyrical hip hop. I was kind of more into like the gangster shit, all the gangster shit. I loved all that, E40, Master P, Pac, all these gangster rap. And I remember when I first started talking to you about hip hop, you were one of the first people that put me on to like Tribe and like all of these other artists that weren't making that hard hip hop. And now my playlist is just full of that.
Awesome, man.
It's all of just that hip hop, right? And it's crazy because now my son, who's turning 20, comes up to me like, "Hey, have you heard this?" And it's the Dilated Peoples. Like, what?
Yeah, I love Dilated
And
Peoples,
I literally get so excited because I'm like, okay, he's diving.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just get bit by it, right?
It's almost like wonder if it's like imprinted in his DNA or something.
It's a strange thing,
right?
It's a strange thing.
Why would he be
and
attracted to
and
this
it's crazy
song?
because I'll be like, yo, I saw them perform it live. I saw them do it live at the Commodore, right? And we can share these stories, and he's kind of blown away, like, wow, you guys lived this experience.
Yeah.
And now, even for him, like, he's obsessed with J. Cole.
Awesome, man.
And
I've
Cole's
seen
dope.
J. Cole live.
Yeah, and his first concert was me and Rosie taking him to see J. Cole.
Was it at the what's that place there on the Vogue?
No. It was Rogers Arena.
Okay.
And he had the stage right in the middle.
Yeah.
And he came out in a straitjacket. It was a For Your Eyes Only tour.
Yep.
So his first concert ever is Cole.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because he said, "I'm only doing this new album." And he's like, "You know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Let's do Forest." He did Forest Hills.
Yeah.
And he's doing all these songs, and I'm just watching my kid, and he knows every word to every
Cool,
song.
man.
And I'm like, this is what albums do.
Yes.
Albums create these experiences, right?
Yeah.
And now with the single-driven industry, it's just a collection of singles that artists do at the shows.
Yeah. It's crazy, and it's like, this is and I've heard artists even say that this is the way now, right? Nobody wants to listen to. I saw an interview with Russ, the singer Russ, and he was saying, a few years ago, this is part of his research to him becoming a success. Was that I was going on SoundCloud and seeing like what's happening on SoundCloud, what's happening on all these platforms, and he's seeing that the first track 20,000 streams, track number 2 500. So nobody is listening, right?
That's the first,
So if nobody listens, like I said, you're not gonna get that ability to connect with people or draw people in, right? On that deeper level, right? Because you're only giving them this surface all the time, right? I mean, the artists are still putting out albums, but then I honestly, like, I'm listening to a lot of this music, and each track is just pretty much a reproduction of the previous track, because they all consist of the same
formula,
and elements, right? And it's like, okay, how many times can we hear this same thing over and over again, right? Like you talk about Doggy Style, you talk about Straight Outta Compton, all these albums offered you something different on every track,
right?
And meant something, and we would learn all these songs. Like I went and saw J. Cole. The first time I saw J. Cole live, only time, I went with my friend and his brother, and it was at the Vogue.
Damn, this is young Cole.
The house was packed.
Yeah.
Okay, packed. Okay, it's 2 levels, right? There's the balcony, which huge, got like 15 rows
Great theater.
of itself, and then like the 20 down on the stage. He came on. I never seen this guy before. I didn't even know who he was. Okay, don't even know who this guy was. He's just, hey, come check out this rapper. He's pretty hot. He's got this one song. I know that one song. I don't know nothing else. I was in there, the fucking whole entire building, singing every word to his song.
Powerful.
Dude, it was nuts.
Yeah, that's powerful, man.
I was like, holy, who is this guy, man? So big ups to J. Cole, man, because he did bless Vancouver a couple times.
Yeah,
and
huge talent, man.
He's
great wordplay, great lyricist.
He's staying true. It's funny. We should have a talk about him one day, and him and like Lupe Fiasco, because they came out around the same time, right? And so they went 2 different ways, right? So
yeah, Lupe crossed a couple lines that you can't do in hip hop. Yeah. And he kind of called out the wrong parts of the industry, and got blackballed pretty quick.
It sucks, and so it's interesting to see how some of these, why maybe things have fallen off and become this, because there's no room to operate now.
Yeah.
The operating system or the model that's in hip hop right now is not congruent to what was happening a long time ago, right?
For real.
Now we talk about like global politics and places being raped and pillaged for their resources. Well, hip hop got raped and pillaged, man. And now it's being exploited, right?
Yeah.
So
I just kind of time to start shifting the balance of that a little bit.
Exactly, right? So when Drake has the top 3 songs, like on the chart for like how long, like mad respects to Drake. Whether he signed a deal with the devil or not, I don't know. But people say things, right? So you hear things. Is there some truth to it or not? I don't know, man. Fucking owls and fucking one eyes and Baphomet and shit like that. I don't know. Like everything that I thought was good before is not good anymore, man. Like it's so bad. And but here you go, right? Like things aren't right, man.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to come in and save the culture. Do you think there's going to be a savior?
I think it starts here, man. And I think a part of what we're going to do is we're going to reestablish the parameters of what makes sense in hip hop. So I think what we should do is look at, take artists and let's create a scale of what we think should be what matters. We'll talk about lyricism. We'll talk about style. We'll talk about flow, rhyme patterns, all of the different things that make up a great MC. And we'll be brutally fucking honest, like brutally honest. Like we'll take like a Tekashi and just give him straight Fs because he's fucking garbage. We don't have to review any music. We just know he's garbage.
Yeah.
But we'll take like, we'll do it seriously. We'll take like a Rakim, compare it to like a Kendrick, and really break down the category of who's the better lyricist, who's got the better wordplay, who's got the better voice, who's got the better, and kind of compile a real running encyclopedia of hip hop greatness.
Truly will stand the test of time.
Yes.
Right? And what defines this GOAT?
Yes. Yes.
What is that GOAT, man? I want to
Hip-hop
know.
encyclopedia, man.
Might even make some trading cards out of that, some shit or like that, right? Like that's where we got to go with
Yeah,
it.
and at least people can have a bit of a reference point to what should matter, because KRS-One's going to be at the top of a lot of these lists.
Should we do it with like maybe local artists?
Oh hell yes!
Oh shit! Okay,
Hell
okay.
yes.
Because you know what, man? I think this is a way to pay respects, right? It doesn't have to be comparison or competition.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, evaluation of your abilities in this game, because it is a game, right?
And hip hop is competitive.
It is a game,
by
right?
nature. Hip hop is competitive.
As much as it is monetary. It's a game, right? Because
it's how you
all
play
about
it.
who has the dopest beats and the freshest lyrics and the hottest lines and how the delivery is.
Yes.
It's not about what you're wearing, man. No.
Or how much money is in your
No,
hand
man,
when
because
you're
I've seen
rapping.
some of the the bestest rappers wearing the busted up shoes on the stage,
Yes.
killing it.
Means nothing.
No.
So all the cities in Lower Mainland, let's start Lower Mainland, Surrey, I don't know.
Burnaby to
Are there
Surrey
any
to
rappers in
Maple
Richmond?
Ridge.
Is there any rappers in Richmond? I don't think so.
There got to be rappers out in Richmond.
couple
Man. Richmond rappers. Well, we're coming Richmond. We're coming out to
Van
Richmond
City,
to find
Burnaby,
rappers.
Surrey, Tri-Cities, all the cities of Lower Mainland.
And it's got to be the city. Like, so I do know people move around. I know some rappers they grew up here, but they kind of started out here. Like, we want to know where you're known and who knows you and what the people on the street are saying about you, because that's what makes hip hop hip hop.
And then you're going to understand what we're saying about you, because we also have to include our opinions
Yep.
as the
Are we gonna
ringleaders.
rate each other?
I mean, I think we
Should
could.
we have other people rate us?
I'm down.
Would you be down for
I'm
that?
down. I'm not worried.
Oh, I'd be down.
I'm not worried.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, the open range, y'all. I'm Alite, Alite. This is Queezi. You can find all our music on Spotify, and you can rate us for ourselves. But
Start listening. I got a lot of music.
just remember, we're battle rappers first.
Yeah. That's how
So
we
you
started.
Come at us with some bullshit and unnecessary conflict. It may not end well, because I'll be just gonna sharpen up the machete.
I'm not so sharp
Sharpen
anymore,
up the
man.
machete
I'm
a little
more like,
bit.
Hey, a hip hop, a hippie to the hippie, hip hop, you dap it, don't stop.
That's not what I heard earlier. That's not what I was listening to earlier when you were spitting shit. It's lying. See, Queezi likes to hide. So Queezi likes to be Logan and hide the claws, right? When needed, they bust out. I'm always in the X-Men outfit, always claws out. Silent assassin. I'm loud as fuck.
I guess I'm living up to the Bollywoodisms, man. Playing it off like I'm just this regular brown guy, just not really, no big muscles, and then boom, I pull it out. That didn't sound right.
Slap upside your head.
That didn't sound right either.
And it's amazing how it all came back around to that.
Yeah.
All came back to that.
So what are we?
On Point Podcast.
That's right, man. We on point, brother.
Hell yes.
I'm Queezi.
Elite.
We out.
ACDJ.
Peace.
Peace.
Yo, check it out. It's Queezi and Elite. We doing the On Point Podcast freestyle call-in. We got Mic Dosa here with us. Dosa, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
What up, Dosa?
We good. So you got something prepared for us today? You gonna do it with a beat or you gonna do it a cappella?
I got a little acapella, yeah. Something right quick I wrote up.
All right, man. Hit us
Okay,
up.
before you do it, turn your mic down just a little bit.
Turn the mic down.
Yeah, turn your mic down just a little bit. I don't want you to come in hot.
Is that good? Is
That's good. That sounds good.
that all right?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Like a failed erection, you don't go hard. Bad cell reception, you got no bars. Like the Trump election, your numbers subpar. From first impression, you won't go far. They floss visas with debts and cards. So why they claim to be vets and in charge? Reject anyone who claim they hard. Insufficient like funds, act like they live large. Be efficient. Invest in your mission, trust intuition. Hate leaves you in prison with the mother's only child missing. Envision a plan for you and the fam. Take a stand when you become the man. Don't forget when you needed a hand with no pot to piss in. When no one talked to listen. When girls were not in distance. Before you got caught like the Pistons on Pippen. That's it. All right.
Yeah. Dosa.
Dosa.
With that heat.
Oh.
Yo, so how do you decide what kind of wordplay you use when you spit these verses? As far as the patterns that you choose,
What kind of words I use?
Do you just let the beat guide your patterns, or do you specifically choose rhyme patterns to use?
Well, this was just a cappella with no beat, so I just write like all the time, right? Like constantly just coming up, trying to be clever, trying to have punches, trying to have wordplay, trying to have metaphors. Like I just write like ever since I was in elementary, right? Just in pads, and it's just something that I do, yeah.
Yeah, it shows, man.
That's
You got some tight tracks out there right now. Where can we find you real quick if people are looking for you?
Oh, all of my music is on all platforms. Mic Dosa, MICDOSA.
Yeah.
You can get me on Instagram at MICDOSA.
Dope. We'll make sure we throw it on.
Got all my songs there, everything I do with hip hop. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll make sure it's all in the comments when we get this posted. That's dope, Mike. Thanks for joining us, man.
One love, brother.
Thanks, man. Take care, guys.
Oh, yeah, talk
Look forward
you
to
soon.
being on your podcast one day, man.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
All right,
Peace, bro.
see you, man.
Dope.